Hey there, Internet. Michael Besog here. Today we delve deep into cultural Marxism by talking about their foot soldier, the social justice warrior. Why? Because this week they tried to turn their Cold War into a real war, maybe successfully. And that's going to create real problems for you and your life. So stay tuned, and we're going to talk about our own modern day Hitler Youth, the social justice warrior. Let's begin by making sure that we have a common understanding of what a social justice warrior is. So one of the best definitions I found states that it's an individual who repeatedly and vehemently engages in arguments on social justice on the internet, often in a shallow or not well thought out way, for the purpose of raising their own personal reputation. This is Urban Dictionary. Here are a few examples. You have AIDS Skrillex.
You've never experienced oppression in your entire fucking life. Neither have I.
You don't know me.
You're fucking a white male.
So?
You're a white man.
You have Trigglypuff.
I am here to provide some adult supervision. Apologize. Calm down, young lady. Fuck you! Keep your hate speech out of this campus. Keep your hate speech out of this campus. Keep your hate speech out of this campus. Keep your hate speech out of this campus.
You have Smugglypuff.
See anything? I didn't see anything that happened.
There's no reason to believe.
I didn't see anything. Nothing happened.
First of all, the other people there over there shouting and stuff.
Yeah, nothing happened. I didn't see anything. Nothing happened. I didn't see anything.
You have Violent Tranny.
Don't smile at me, bitch. What you want?
But these are just the famous ones, due to their own high levels of ridiculous activity. The following are also SJWs, like Occupy Wall Street, Black Lives Matter, Gamergate. There's not really a good picture for Gamergate. Third Wave Feminists, the staff of HuffPo, the Pussy Hat March, the Anti-Halloweeners at Yale, the Safe Spacers, and their Thug Life Professor.
Well, hi, media. Can I talk to you?
No, you need to get out.
Well,
you need to get out.
No, I don't.
You need to get out.
I actually don't.
All right. Hey, who wants to help me get this reporter out of here? I need some muscle over here.
The list goes on and on. There are literally too many for me to just make a video on SJWs and who they are. There is a common theme, though. See, they believe in two things. One is that you're best judged by the labels into which you fall. But, obviously, don't judge me, just you. And then the second is that there's this cosmic injustice which must be rectified. So let's break these two things down, and I think you'll start to see how they all belong in the same disgusting little group. See, they all believe that the most correct understanding of who you are, of your identity, is found in external characteristics which are recognizable at first glance. For Black Lives Matter, it's about whether or not you're black, and it's about whether or not you're a cop. For third wave feminists, it's about whether or not you're male or female. For others, it's if you're straight or not, male or not, white or not, all these things being bad. It's about using other people's identity to discredit them and using your own status as this oppressed person, some label which gives you victim status, to legitimize your own views. You see, judging someone by their character is difficult and takes time. It's out of the question. They can't see your character at first glance. So here's where it gets tricky, though. Since most of the SJWs aren't really born into one of these so-called oppressed classes, or they don't have as many victim points as others, they risk being on the losing side of a scale in an argument with, let's say, a black, lesbian, orphan rape victim that believes in personal responsibility and free speech. See, if they're making all their arguments based on the fact that they are part of the oppressed class. Remember my video on cultural Marxism and how it's the most dangerous thing in the world. Oh, sorry, the most dangerous thing in the United States. You have to break everything down into these oppressor, oppressed, victimizer, victim, advantage, disadvantaged groups so that you can destroy society by attacking every form of status quo, right? So their solution, so that they don't end up on the wrong side of the oppressor-oppressed scale that they've made up in their heads, the solution is to make up genders. The solution is to make up ridiculous identity types. So you can't be more oppressed than someone that can just make up oppression identities, plural, for themselves. Look up the term otherkin and look up Tumblr's list of genders if you don't know what I'm talking about. Seriously, here's one. Apkonsu gender. And it's a gender in which you know what it isn't, but not what it is. Sort of like the gender is hiding itself from you. That is easily one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard in my entire life. So first it's about identifying in your opponent as many of the oppressor labels as possible. And then possessing, even if you have to make it up, as many of the oppressed labels as possible. That's one of the two common themes you're going to see across the board with social justice warriors. The second common theme that you're going to see is this belief in a sort of cosmic injustice, which must be righted, hence the term social justice. And this is why the oppressor-oppressed dynamic is so important. See, it's not that a straight white male has done something in his life to affect that straight white woman's life purposely or directly. It's that straight white men have historically oppressed straight white women. So the cosmic scale is tipped in the favor of the straight white male, and the social justice warrior needs to tip it in favor of, not even evening it out, but in favor of, since, the straight white male it's been tipped in his favor for so long, it must be tipped in reverse, in favor of the straight white female. And you can apply that piece by piece to every single dynamic between what you perceive as oppressor and what you perceive as oppressed. So it goes from straight white male to straight white female to straight white male and gay white male and white male and black male and female and so on and so forth. Anything you perceive as having that historical oppression must be righted. And so the social justice warrior must hack away at the straight white male's position or advantage or whatever. If a straight white male is accused wrongly of rape by a straight white female, then the social justice warriors would find it necessary to ensure that the straight white male still goes to prison. Not because they're denying the fact that he did not rape the woman, but because some straight white male in the past probably got away with raping some straight white female. That's how social justice is defined. It's the cosmic writing, not the actual writing of injustice. If you can't see why this is a perversion of justice, then you're definitely part of the problem. If you can't see how this leads to nothing but the destabilization of society and prevents real justice in the future, then you're the problem. You are the problem. And see, let's do a little thought experiment. You're walking down the street and some Asian woman slaps you across the face and walks away. So what do? Well, you walk up to the next Asian man you see and you stab him. Because, Asian and stabbing and slapping are pretty much the same, and there's probably, here's the key, probably some Asian man who has punched somebody like you before, and so the slapping of the Asian woman, slapping by the Asian woman of you, and that punching of somebody else by some Asian man, kind of together equal you stabbing this person. So it's you're writing the scales. And then the Asian guy that you just stabbed takes the knife out of his leg and gets in his car pissed off and starts running people over because, there's probably been plenty of people that have run over Asian men and gotten away with it. And then he goes to jail, and when he's in court, The jury acquits that Asian guy of all the murders that he just committed by running people over because his lawyer is a gay black man. And you see where we're going with this. It doesn't make any sense. It's not logical. But that's social justice. That's how social justice works. That's cultural Marxism. It wouldn't be so bad if it was just these gender studies professors and students whining on Tumblr. But that's not the case. They demand safe spaces where other people's opinions aren't allowed. They require trigger warnings to protect from PTSD they don't have. They shouted down dissenting voices. They took over campuses and protested in cities and ruined as many things as they could find. But even this is tolerable. Tolerable. We can put up with it. Stupid, but tolerable. People tried to debate them, but they would rather name call, which, by the way, is a sign that you've lost an argument, than prove their points. They even began to harass and intimidate legislators. In New York, employers, renters, landlords, service providers can be fined up to $250,000 for not using their made-up gender pronouns. That's thought crime. Thought crime. Read 1984. These are unconstitutional and will be struck down eventually when they get to the Supreme Court, but it still exists. It has just kept getting less and less free and less just in our society. Social justice warriors have had a devastating effect on certain individuals too, certainly, like individual people. You know, they like to dox, which you look up, it means to harass somebody by searching for, publishing private information, either on the internet or calling their employer, their school, threatening their family, etc. They are the modern-day Hitler Youth. You say the wrong thing, and they report you to the SJW crowd, or the modern-day SS, and then ruin your life for having a difference of opinions. So it was getting depressing. But then Hillary Clinton lost. Having been the most visible proponent of social justice and an icon to the social justice warrior horde, her losing signaled maybe the beginning of the end for the social justice warrior. Things started looking up. Social justice warriors started having meltdowns. The literal shakening happened. Look it up. The longest no happened. It was fantastic. But apparently SJWs have begun to realize that they've lost their power. So they've taken their Cold War and they made it hot. Possibly. Possibly. Here's the thing. So long as we can discuss ideas, we can live peaceably. Even if we don't agree. Let's take this down to like this primitive status. If two people both want the same resource and one refuses to speak to another, violence is inevitable. If they can speak, so long as they do speak, violence is unnecessary. In society, we must be able to discuss our differences, debate our ideas, find common ground. That's why freedom of speech is in the First Amendment. It undergirds all our other rights. But last Thursday, a riot broke out at the home of free speech, UC Berkeley. Rioters and protesters threw rocks and fireworks, broke windows, threw Molotov cocktails, lit things on fire, in order to prevent a gay Jew, who, by the way, they've promised to buy his book and burn it, in order to prevent that gay Jew from speaking at the home of this free speech movement. They said he is a Nazi, a gay Jew from England who exclusively dates black men. A Nazi. Some people are trying to make the distinction between the rioters and peaceful protesters, but watch the videos yourself. There's no distinction to be made. Some people are trying to blame this on right-wing, white supremacist instigators. Notice the label. Like I said, though, watch your videos. Watch the videos yourself. There's links in the description. Some are saying that the university was all for free speech, but these outsiders came in and ruined it, not their students. I'm not saying that these weren't outsiders. I know for a fact there were students claiming to be from UCLA there, but I don't see what a difference it makes. The police, the campus police, should have made arrests, but they only made one. Just one. And that was for blocking them. That's it. It's interesting, to say the least. It's interesting that none of the outside agitators, quote unquote, were arrested. None of the students that were throwing rocks. None of the people that threw Molotov cocktails. Not one. So conveniently, we'll never know who it was. But that brings us to an important point. I don't know for sure who it was. Because of that, because we don't know, we won't take a retaliatory stance. Yet. But one of the themes that's been bubbling up for these SJWs is to become ungovernable. It's a very dangerous position to take for a whiny, noodly armed SJW. To take a position of violence, to say that you're not doing what we say, so now war, is definitely not an intelligent thing for these types of people to do. First of all, the people that think your ideology and your made-up Pokemon genders and your retarded version of justice and your attempt at thought control by demanding safe spaces and trigger warnings and declaring hate speech a thing, those people that think all that stuff is nonsense, a lot of those people are well trained at violence. Far better trained than these SJWs got by playing Call of Duty and Final Fantasy and complaining that female game characters are under or misrepresented. It's a Gamergate reference. Those of us that choose to serve our community as soldiers, Marines, airmen, sailors, Coast Guard, firefighters, cops, EMTs, etc., we don't believe in their bullshit. So, at least from me, this is a warning. So long as you're willing to discuss, we let you be. The Berkeley riot seems to have been a shot across the bow. Hopefully it's not. Perhaps you think that you got up from the table because you're tired of losing your argument and that you're going to step into the ring, and that's a mistake. See, you'll lose the argument. That's a certainty. Watch my other videos if you haven't figured out why yet. But you'll survive that. You'll have to adopt or develop a new worldview, but you'll survive. If you make it a fight, you will not survive. We are far better at violence than you. And your ideology, your entire ideology, is in direct opposition to the U.S. Constitution, which I have sworn to uphold and defend. So come back to the table. Come back to the just making your arguments on Facebook and Tumblr and Twitter. Bring back the Twitter wars. It was fun. Don't make this a physical fight, as you will lose. So, what do you think? Do you think that the SJWs will turn their movement violent? Or do you think that that was just a group of a-holes? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, please click like, so that I know that you like it and I can make more like it. If you like these videos that I'm making, go ahead and click subscribe. There's a bell next to the subscribe button after you click it that'll help you receive notifications of when I upload new stuff. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. I'd love to hear from you in the email. You can find all that stuff in my About section. So be safe, and I hope to see you soon.